My name is Austin Wadlington, and this is my presentation on plant diseases caused by prokaryotes. The first one I did was bacterial blight. Bacterial blight is a disease that makes its living in the leaves of soybean plants. It starts out with the disease overwintering in the plant debris, and then the bacteria will enter through the natural openings of the leaf. But it can also get in through the stomates. But for it to enter through the stomates and the natural openings of the leaf has to be wet for the disease to be able to enter. This is a disease that we usually spread during or after a rainstorm, that also can be spread widely with wind, and also just with your leaves rubbing up against each other. Bacterial blight is a disease that cannot be taken care of with a foliar fungicide. The best measure for bacterial blight would be to maintain a good crop rotation, and most importantly, don't plant soybeans in the same field for back-to-back years. Another effective management is to take care of your plant debris with clean tillage. So once you've harvested the soybeans, go back through with a disc and plow them under. And that'll also aid in the soil organic matter that you put in your soil. One of the ways you can spot this is small yellow or brown spots on the leaf. It could eventually lead to the leaves being eaten away by the disease and have kind of a jagged appearance, and the leaves would have different holes throughout of them. Like this one here is just looking at it with like the many different holes you would see in the leaf, and that's the spots that start out that can eventually lead to eating away at the leaf. The second one I did was bacterial wilt, and the main one you see in that is Gauss's wilt, which you see in corn. We wouldn't really see much of this where we live in southeast Missouri, because it's mostly found like over in the Great Plains states. Depending on the conditions that the disease is in, it can cause small damage in the right conditions. But if the conditions are practically perfect, it can cause up to a 50% yield loss. Gauss's wilt is much like most other diseases. It can overwinter in the corn debris from the previous year and then spread through the wind and rain. But it can make its way into the plant through insect wounds. So another way you could kind of combat that is to also use an insecticide, so you wouldn't have the insect wounds on your corn plants. There's two types of symptoms that you would see with Gauss's wilt. In the early symptom stages, you would see it in the vascular bundles that could eventually lead to severe cases of stalk rot. The other way, and the most common way you'd see it, is foliar blight. You'd see long, wavy tan lesions along the leaves of your corn. You might also notice that the leaves constantly look like they've been soaked with water. Control measures is a lot like bacterial blight. Fungicides don't help. The main thing you can just do is a crop rotation and tillage of your crop residues. And that's the tan lesions you see on the leaf, just kind of eating away across the front of the leaf, and then that's what it would look like if you had like multiple plants infected in the same field. The other one I picked was bacterial scabs of potatoes, which is a pretty large disease you'd see in potatoes. It's a soil-borne disease, which is different than the others, but it attacks the roots of the potato plant. Depending on the conditions of the area, the scabs could be something you don't really have to worry about, or something that could totally ruin your potato crop. Some of the things that allow this disease to thrive is the pH of your soil. This disease will thrive in a neutral or alkaline soil, so anything at 7 or above. And also the amount of moisture has a strong effect on what effect this disease can have on your potato crop. Some of the control measures for scab disease of potatoes would be starting out just plant a resistant variety. Another way that you could do it is to boost your resistance is keep a healthy crop rotation, and the best one for this disease would be to rotate yearly with legumes. Or some people would even harvest their potato and put a short year bean crop in behind it. Another thing that would help is to not run a high pH in your soil, because at the lower levels you won't see much effect of pH with this disease. And if you do apply lime in your fields, don't use excess amounts. And dolomitic limestone is best after you've taken the potatoes out, like once you've harvested, come back through and then lime your fields, not before you are about to plant. And this is just some of the things you would see and notice about the potato scabs. This one has been overwhelmed with them, and this one is a case that's somewhat minor. I also did root nodules of legumes. For the most part, root nodules are beneficial because most of the root nodules you find on legumes aid in nitrogen fixation, but that doesn't mean that all of them are good, because there are some nodules that you can find that just completely harm the plant. Some are just parasites that do damage to the roots and just take up space on the roots and do nothing for nitrogen fixation. So if you look at the roots of a soybean plant and you see that they're like little nodules on your plant, that's not always a good thing. The root nodules appear as small clubs of the tap roots, which is kind of what you see right here. Those are the nodules you'll see. That one just has a couple, and then that's one that is covered with nodules. It's different than most diseases that you see in plant species because not all nodule bacteria can affect all legumes. Like you could have a nodule that you have on your soybean crop and could be harmful to your soybean crop, but if you have it on alfalfa or velvet leaf or something like that, then it could be beneficial to those. It's just kind of plant specific in that way.